today we are going to learn the center game and its traps. So let's get started. So the center game starts with E4, E5 and D4. So this is called the center game. So as you see, we have control of the center and black has not controlled the center. So he obviously captured the pawn. If he wanted, he could capture. So after he captures the pawn, we recapture with our queen. So one important rule is never getting your queen too early, but I'll tell that in another video. So please tune for that. So after queen takes d4, this is trap number 1 for white. So okay, black plays knight to c6. Black plays knight c6 and we play queen to a4. I know we are getting a queen to the edge of the board where she is not that powerful, but we are setting up a secret trap. So black plays knight f6. We play knight to c3, defending our pawn back, adding another defender. Black plays queen to e7. We pin the black knight to the queen with bishop to g5. And then black plays d5. So black played it d5. And obviously one thing is that we cannot capture the black pawn because now black has pinned the white pawn to our king. So let's say we don't see that our pawn is in danger. Let's say that you castled. Now black obviously captured. And now we'll sacrifice the knight with knight takes e4. And as you see, even the engine believes that black is actually winning. The engine tells you the right move and who is right now winning. So right now white is right now losing and black is right now winning. But actually white is winning. He's actually winning the queen. So but it only goes if black captures our knight. But he cannot actually. But if he doesn't know that that knight is a big trouble, then he's gone. Let me tell you why. As you see, we had just lost like a full knight. And black is still right now per queen. But this is actually a big mistake. Look, after black actually captured, the engine gives a plus 3.10 advantage to white because he's actually winning. Let me tell you. So don't trade queens. No. Don't trade the queens. Instead, you play the rook sacrifice. Rook to d8 check. Now black completely lost his queen. Either move black plays, which is king takes d8 and king to e7, the result will actually be the same, but the move will be different. So let's say black did capture the rook. You can now actually capture the queen. Let me tell you. Well, look. You might think that the knight actually can capture a queen. Well, it actually cannot because now it is pinned to the king. Yes, when we played it the check, our bishop was still there when the queen did capture and the diagonal got opened a little. So our bishop is actually X-ray protecting the rook. So if black's king capture, the queen is actually gone. But if black's king goes to e7, then after you capture the queen and black captures back, it is instead your turn instead of black's, because when black captured the rook and you captured the queen, it was black's turn to move. But when he got it to e7, it is your move. So because black lost it a move, so that's like a winning move. So that was the first trap. Now let's look at a second trap for black. So after the same moves, queen takes d4 and knight c6, white goes for queen e3. Yes, let's pretend that white doesn't know the queen a4 trap. So white played it queen to e3. We play knight f6. White plays his bishop to c4, attacking the weak f7 pawn. Why is the f7 pawn called the weak f7 pawn? And why is this pawn, the f2 pawn, called the weak f2 pawn? Well, let me show you. In the starting of the game, the kings only defend the f2 and f7 pawns. So, if there are two attackers on the pawns, it can be actually a big trouble for the f2 and f7 pawn. So that's why it is called a weak pawn. 2 or 3 defenders are pretty good for it, or even more defenders are much better. So that's why the f2 and f7 pawns are called the weak f2 pawn, or even the weak f7 for black. So that's why white played it bishop to c4. Now what we play? Well, you play knight to e5. This move is kind of like an interesting. Look, we are attacking the white bishop right here, and also we are defending the f7 pawn. Now white's bishop loves the f7 pawn diagonal, so white moves his bishop back to b3. So now what we play? We play bishop to b4 check. White blocks with his pawn. And now we'll not retreat our bishop like white's bishop has gone back. Instead, we'll play bishop to c5. Now, white's queen is right now being attacked. So now white cannot capture the c5 bishop because that leads to a fork with knight to d3 check. So look, and it is a family fork because there are 3 pieces being threatened: the king, the queen, and the bishop, and also even the pawn there. So this is a family fork. If there are 3 or 4 pieces being attacked, it's called a family fork. But if only 2, then it is called fork or even a double attack. So white cannot capture the black bishop. Let's say white moved his queen to g3, but now white completely lost. I know he is attacking the g7 pawn, but we don't actually need to castle our king and protect it. We don't need that. We could actually win the queen instead. Let's play bishop takes f2 check. And yes, we captured the weak f2 pawn. So we captured the weak f2 pawn. Now we are again threatening the king and queen. And this is again a fork. Now if white's queen captures one day, then you can again play knight to d3 check. And again, it is the same natural family fork. Everything is the same, but this time, instead of the queen being on c5, she is on f2. Now, but what if instead of white's queen capturing the king's capture one day. Well, then now we cannot capture the queen because it will only check the king but not attack the queen at the same time. So we get another knight to the party, and as you see, again we are forking the king and queen. As you see, well, it's actually a family fork because this pawn is also being threatened. Even though it's protected, it's still called a fork or family fork, or even a double attack. So now let's look at another trap for black where checkmates. He makes a very cool trap of trapping the queen by a pin. So a pin. Now let's look at that trap. So after the same cycle of moves, queen takes d4, knight c6, and then queen to e3. Instead of playing knight f6, which we already looked at that trap, we can play bishop to b4 check straight away. Now we are attacking the king. So white blocks with his pawn. So we had to retreat our bishop. White thinks that the f7 pawn is weak, so he attacks it with bishop c4. Well, we could play actually knight f6. I know the f7 pawn is being attacked, but there's only one attacker and one defender. So, and also the bishop is more important than the pawn. But if white wants to sacrifice it, he can. Now we played it knight f6. I know we shouldn't play knight f6 because white could just gain a tempo by attacking it. But there's a secret little trap. So white played it e5. Now let's say that the king is actually a knight and it is protecting the knight and also moves like a queen and pins his pawn to the queen. Let's pretend we castle on the king's side. Now if white captures, that's a big mistake because you can play the beautiful move rook to e8 and it's a painful love story. As you see, the king is hiding behind the queen and the queen is now actually pinned. The queen cannot move anywhere because if she moved it, any other squares which are like on diagonals, right, or in vertical lines, she will put a whole king in check. She can only go on the e5 because it still lets the king stay out of check. So now you might think that what if white captures the queen? Well, you can just recapture the queen back and gain which is forced and you get to check the king as well. But what if white played it bishop to e6? Well, that's actually a more mistake than queen takes a8. So, barely, it is actually a more big mistake. You can capture free piece and keep your rook alive. And if white did capture, you will be allowed to up a bishop and queen. And also get back a central pawn. And then get all of your pieces back like in the center of the board. Even your queen. But before getting all your pieces out, make sure to also capture this pawn if white played a different move instead of moving the pawn. If he captured, we couldn't recapture with the king because we have the queen and white doesn't have the queen. So it will be easier to win. Now let's look at another trap. So after the same cycle of moves, queen takes d4, knight c6, queen to e3, and black plays bishop to b4 check. We block. Black's bishop goes back to a5, and also again we play bishop to c4, and this time black plays a different move. Instead he places a different combination. Instead of playing this for allowing the trap again of the pain of the queen, let's say black doesn't know the trap and plays knight g to e7 and prepare to castle. Then we play queen to g3, attacking the g7 pawn with our queen. Black simply instead castles and prevents any such threats. And also there is one thing. You might think that white could play bishop to h6 and get a queen and helper mate. I'll make a video about the queen and helper mate, so please tune for that video as well. Well, if you played bishop to h6, black could actually play knight to g6 and prevent the queen from pinning this pawn, and the bishop will be attacked and black will gain a tempo. So instead white plays h4, trying to control this square first. Black wanted to shift his pieces to the king side, so he played it knight g6. Then h4 came, and then black played it knight g to e5, attacking the white bishop. So he's attacking our bishop, but we attack his queen with bishop to g5. Now we are attacking the queen, and there is no way to help her by moving her only to e8, because this pawn cannot move because it is also pinned, and he didn't get another pin to the queen also. So queen goes to e8, then bishop to f6, attacking the knight and threatening a mate on the next move. So black plays g6, which is the only legal move left. Now you captured the pawn with h takes g6, and if black captures one day, then it is a checkmate with rook h8 checkmate. And so instead of the pawn, black captured with the knight, but that's also a blunder. So instead you can sacrifice your queen, and black has to capture that pawn because this pawn is pinned to the king. So, and then you can play your favorite mate, which is like the opera mate with rook h8 checkmate. So I hope you all like this video. If you please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.